Good evening. It is, good afternoon. It is Friday, May 16th, 2025. This is a regular meeting of the Commissioners of the City of Rehoboth Beach. We're live in the City Hall Commissioners Room on the second floor. I'd like to call this meeting to order at exactly 2 o'clock p.m. Would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll start off with roll call. Commissioner Mark Saunders.
Present.
Commissioner Suzanne Good.
Present.
Commissioner Ed Chernowski.
Here.
Commissioner Patrick Gossett.
Here.
Commissioner Bunky Markert.
Here.
Commissioner Craig Thier.
Here.
And Mayor Stan Mills. We have a full complement of the mayor and commissioners and are able to formally conduct business today. Thank you for being here. Let's see. I'd like to thank all that are here virtually. Hi, and also like to thank everybody that's here in person. There are opportunities for input on topic. It's articulated at the end of the agenda. And there are opportunities for comment off topic. That's also articulated at the end of the agenda. We have support documents. Those are documents that help support our individual agenda items that are embedded in the agenda when they're received a sufficient time ahead of the meeting. And if you go to www.rehoboth.com, oh, we have a new email address. RehobothBeachDE.gov is the new website address. Take a look at it and explore it sometime. With that, let's see, we will recognize City Manager Taylor Tedder, City Clerk Ann Womack, Deputy Clerk Marco Avilio, Interim Solicitor, what's your name? Maxwell, I was ready.
We've known each other for 20 years.
I was all ready to give the new lady's name. Darn it, we'll hold off on that. And we have other staff out in the hall. Thank you, or the room. Thank you for being here. Also, correspondence that's received ahead of the time is embedded in the agenda so that we don't need to read it out loud, but we did want to acknowledge it. From John and Tom Meisro. There are two letters we'll touch base during the curfew topic. And with that, we're moving right along to approval of minutes. We have 15 sets of minutes to approve. Two of them are quite old, and everybody is able to vote on all those, including those, to make it easy on it. So are there any corrections to any of those 15 sets of minutes? If not, then I would entertain a motion to approve the 15 sets of minutes as noted on the agenda.
Second.
No, we need a motion.
Okay, I make a motion to approve the minutes listed on the agenda, executive sessions held on January.
No, you make the motion of approving 15 sets of minutes.
15 sets of minutes. I make a motion to approve those 15 sets of minutes.
Period. Thank you. And who did a second? Ed did. We have a motion by Commissioner Suzanne Good and a second by Commissioner Ed Chernowski to approve the 15 sets of minutes before us. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, and those 15 sets of minutes are approved. With that, we'll move along to the city manager's report. Taylor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. Good afternoon. We're excited to host next week the grand opening of our new Rehoboth Beach Patrol Comfort Station facility at Baltimore Avenue. A ribbon cutting ceremony will be held from 10 a.m. to noon, Thursday, May 22nd. The public is invited to celebrate with us and take a tour of the new building. In preparation for the grand opening, finishing work and inspections are continuing, and the punch list work will continue following Memorial Day. It's important to note that in addition to functioning as headquarters for the Beach Patrol, the new building features restrooms and changing rooms for the public. On the first level, there's 2 large public restrooms as well as 2 family restrooms, one of which is equipped with an adult changing table and 4 changing rooms. So we're very excited to share that with you and the public. Rehoboth Avenue, with the off and on rain that we've been experiencing this week, it's likely that Adel and Straight Line will need to come back next week to complete the striping and utility adjustments on Rehoboth Avenue. Workdays scheduled are Sunday and Tuesday evenings. In addition, DelDOT will return in the fall to install the thermoplastic crosswalk markings. Canal Dock. So following further discussions with Wallace Montgomery and Stable Ground, Wallace Montgomery is going to perform its own survey on May 27th and check results against the previous survey that was completed. Both parties may still want to see an additional survey completed with their control points a month later in order to recommend whether or not to open the Canal Dock, but we'll definitely be sure to keep you informed on that. As a teaser to the summer concert series, which officially begins June 13th, 2 special Memorial Day weekend concerts will be hosted at the bandstand next weekend. We May Be Right, the Billy Joel tribute, will perform the pop rock hits of the Piano Man Saturday evening, May 24th, and Mike Hines and The Look will turn up the dance tunes Sunday, May 25th. Both concerts begin at 8 p.m. and are free and open to the public. City offices will be closed Monday, May 26th, but residential trash collection will take place as scheduled on the south side. City Hall will be open from 8:30 to noon on Saturday, May 31st to serve anyone who's interested in submitting a nominating petition for the Board of Commissioners seat. The deadline for nominating petitions is June 2nd, and the annual municipal election will take place Saturday, August 9th. And finally, street aid. This month's street aid expenditures included a payment to Delmarva Power in the amount of $11,603.07. And that concludes my report today. I'm here for any questions you may have.
Any commissioners have questions? Commissioner Saunders?
Mr. Tedder, am I correct that we're going to be opening the dock if indeed it hasn't moved significantly?
Right. As soon as we get word from the engineers with Wallace Montgomery and Stable Ground, then we will definitely reopen it ASAP.
Mayor?
Commissioner Good?
So just to clarify, since Wallace Montgomery will be physically inspecting the dock on what sounds like May 27th, would May 27th or 28th be the earliest possible opening date?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else up here? Commissioner Markert?
I just wanted to say that I thought the paving looks really good. I know it's not done yet, but it really, once you have it, it looks pretty great. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you, Taylor. With that, we'll move on to the city solicitor's report. Interim city submitted.
Yes, I have no report other than to say I was honored that you guys selected me to come on for a short period of time, and it's been wonderful to get to know each one of you a little bit better in my time here. So I'm sure I'll be around every once in a while. I've been around every once in a while for 23 years now, so I'm sure it won't go away. But thank you for this opportunity, and you're in very good hands with Lisa.
Thank you. We've enjoyed having you along there. And so our new in-house city solicitor, her first day is Tuesday, May 27. So she'll be at the next following meeting, which would be in June. With that, we have departmental reports. As you notice, listed in there, Alderman's Court Report, Building and Licensing, Communications, Police Report, all have reports embedded in the agenda. Again, go to the website and look for those. But otherwise, live, we have preseason reports. And are we just going to go to police, parking, beach patrol, and streets?
Correct. Thank you, Mayor. I'll just start off. So just continuing with the theme of having either a department or a department head present to the Board of Commissioners at least once a month. This month, we thought it was appropriate to do a preseason report. So with us today, we have 4 department heads. We have June Embert with the Parking Department. We have Captain Giles with the Rehoboth Beach Patrol. Henry Matlos, who will give an update on the Streets Department, and then obviously Chief Banks for the Police Department. I've asked them each to be no more than 3 minutes, so bear with us. We'll get through the preseason reports. Who wants to go first? June?
So thank you. Mayor, City Manager, and Commissioners. My name is June Embert. I'm the Parking Department Supervisor. The Parking Department hired 30 seasonal employees, 16 enforcement, 8 office, 2 part-time data entry, and 4 permit sales. Ron Snoots, an enforcement officer, started part-time in March, assisting Bill Maffei with signage installation and street painting. He has been a valuable seasonal worker for 20 years. In April, 2 new office clerks started training. One office clerk was certified, CJIS certified, to assist in the daily operations of data entry. On April 1st, the parking permits were available for purchased. Our sales for April were $89,245. May 1st through May 14th, permit sales were $255,195. In May, various other office team members filtered in for orientation and training. This week, we had enforcement training and permit sales. So we're ready for May 15th. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, June. Any questions of June? Thank you, June.
Thank you.
Police? Oh, Captain Giles, come ahead.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone, Mayor, Commissioners. Beach Patrol, well, everyone's been hired up as of about a month ago. We have up to 80 people on the staff, and that includes shack assistants, EMTs, all the lifeguards, and staff. Of the 80, we have 20 new rookies that are coming this year. We had, and this is my 5th summer, by far the most amount of people trying out this year. So that's really good. I think we can attribute it to, 1, I think our reputation, and 2, I think the pay also helped too, because we're competing against other beach patrols. So that's worked out real well for us. On the leadership role, being that this is my 5th summer, I had 3 chiefs that I picked back then, and we continue to have the same 3 chiefs. So it makes things really easy. Also, last year, we had 10 people on our leadership team, which are lieutenants and sergeants. These are the guards that are training all the other guards. These are the ones that are making sure that everything's safe on the beach. They're the go-to people. Of the 10 that I had last year, I got 9 back, which is sort of unheard of because most of the kids are graduating college. They did their 4 or 5 years on the beach patrol and they're moving on. We got very lucky this year that we got all those folks back. So leadership team-wise, man, it's just picking off where we started last year, so it's really good. So we're ready to go. We're going to start on Saturday. We should be in the building. We're going to start being able to move some things in next week. The main purpose of getting everything is I need to get everything in for the first aid station to make sure that we're ready to go and ready to roll on Memorial Day weekend, and we will be. So,
Any questions for Captain Giles?
Mayor, just
Come in.
status on beach ambassadors.
yeah, we have 3. We have 3 beach ambassadors. One, I just found out she was going to be full-time, but now she can just do weekends, which is good because we need her on weekends. And the other 2 are full-time. So, yeah.
Explain what an ambassador is, though.
Yeah, our beach ambassadors basically are our lifeguards behind the stand. They walk the beach and they notify the public mostly about tents because that's usually the major problem that we have. And again, they're there to be a friendly face, represent the city, explaining some rules and regulations that we have. They also assist us with lost children. When we have lost kids, they'll go to the area. And they are a part of the beach patrol. They're a part of all the things that the lifeguards do, all the events that we have. And yeah, it's one big family.
Thank you. Did you? Thank you, Captain.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. So for the Streets Department, preps for the season are largely complete. Streets Department has 3 full-time seasonals and 9 part-time. Hours for Streets Department during the summer is 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. The night crew is going to start this weekend, and they go from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. They keep the beach, boardwalk, and street cans empty, and also the parks, and will help with other projects that day shift is working on as time permits. All the trash and recycling cans are painted freshly, as are the lifeguard stands and benches on the boardwalk and the parks. The bike racks are also freshly painted, and older ones have been replaced with newer ones. And the lifeguard stands are largely in place. They'll be done this coming week. We have 4 cocoa mats out this year, and they've been well received. We had one of them we left out the entire winter on Rehoboth Avenue. Feedback has been very positive, but they are too soft for wheelchairs. So at Maryland and Laurel, we'll have the regular Moby mats. And we're almost done installing the mats. 2 months ago, we performed an inspection of the stormwater outfalls, and the coupling where it transitions at Maryland needs repair. And on Delaware Avenue, there were some holes on the top visible, but the stormwater was still flowing more than adequately through it. But during some subsequent rain, we had lost quite a bit of sand, and I went to check the pipe closer and waded out in the water to the seaward end, and there were some holes on the side on Delaware that weren't noticed during the inspection because of the level of the sand. So I also had a video taken of that stormwater pipe from Delaware Avenue at the boardwalk going seaward, and they got about 160 feet in, and that pipe is in good shape. But figured it's prudent to repair those holes. Plates will be welded by commercial divers starting this Monday through Wednesday. And if they're not finished by Wednesday, I ask them to come back after Memorial Day. So next year, with the beach replenishment, tend to coordinate with Army Corps of Engineers to see if they can help with a more permanent fix on that, maybe replacing that pipe on that outfall at Delaware.
Any questions of Henry, Public Works? Thank you, Henry.
Thank you.
Chief?
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager, and the general public. Thank you for having me. And as Evan said, he only gave us 3 minutes, so they're thankful, I guess. Seasonal staffing. We are fully staffed this year with 16 summer officers. This weekend, they will graduate the Seasonal Police Academy. They're attending delegates on training Monday and Tuesday. You'll start seeing them out on foot and bicycle patrols. The shifts will be implemented to optimize coverage during the busiest times of the day. With the 6 additional seasonal officers this year, about 47% more, you should see a greater law enforcement presence than you did last year. So we're looking forward to that. And we will continue to cover the farmers market and the bandstand events. As you may recall, at our bandstand events last year, we did shut down, put cones down so we could have Ubers and things like that drop off, pick up for Uber Eats at the bandstand area out front, be able to get the dart buses and Jolly in there. So I think that worked out a lot better last year, and we had a full-time officer and a seasonal officer up there all times blocking it and things. So that worked out well last year, so we will continue to do that for safety reasons. Speaking of the Seasonal Police Academy, I want to publicly say thank you to our officers for their willingness to invest the time and energy into each seasonal officer's growth, but have also inspired confidence and ambition to each of them. The positive impact these officers made will resonate in their professional journeys for years to come to the seasonal officers, because it is a lot of energy, preparational work, and we rescheduled their work hours and everything else to be able to teach these summer officers, and it really means a lot. They're doing 12, 14-hour days. I'm trying to get that done in the 4 weekends, so it's a lot. And again, we were able to, like the Beach Patrol, be able to look at applicants and actually turn some away because we did get a lot, and that's to thank each of you because of the money investments that you put forth in the budget to be able to get more qualified candidates to want to come to Rehoboth Beach this year. Every Wednesday since April 2nd and will continue through June 25th, we've been participating with DelDOT in the bicycle safety seminars with the J1 students. If you're not familiar with that, we do that each year to help them with bicycle safety, the different rules out on the highway versus what we expect when they come in town, and also help with the safety checkpoints to make sure that their bicycles are properly done, and also help to make sure anybody that needs a bicycle can get, for the J1 students, can get one. Memorial Day weekend, we'll see additional patrols through initiatives and funding by the Office of Highway Safety, impaired driving, click your ticket or seatbelt checks, and pedestrian safety will be taking place Memorial Day weekend and weeks leading up and just afterwards. This pedestrian safety, if you're not familiar with that, it's really the police officers at crosswalks hand out literature and thanking the ones that are doing it right when it's okay to walk and they use the crosswalk correctly. And if they're not, we're just handing out literature and trying to educate the public. We're not necessarily giving citations out. Full-time staffing, this past Wednesday, after 27 years of serving our community, Sergeant Scott O'Beer retired, so we wish him well and thank him for everything he gave to our community. And now we currently have 2 recruits in the police academy and expected to graduate in October, and then field training will begin for additional 12 weeks. So they'll be on their own about the end of the year. And also it does take some time to get that up and going. Just a quick update on the take-home vehicle program that we begun. Thanks again to the budget things. We have 6 new vehicles that should be outfitted the first week of June and should be to us and in service by the first week of July. What we're doing with the program is to have all officers in patrol cars, take homes that have at least 2 years of experience on. So they have to be here at least 2 years and invested. So that's all I have for at this time. Do you have any questions?
Any questions of the chief? Nope. Thank you very much,
Thank
Chief.
you.
Appreciate it. And that's it for the preseason department reporting. With that, we'll move along. We have board and commission reports. We have a board of adjustment that is embedded in the agenda. Next is committee reports, which there are none, and we have community partner reports. I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce and also Main Street and the library for submitting reports. They're again embedded electronically in the agenda for you to read. And I know it takes effort to put those together, and we appreciate that. With that, we're going to move on to the first item of old business, which is consider adoption of strategic plan as presented by Emergent Method.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. Taylor Tedder, your city manager here. So about a month ago, we had Robin Stiles of Emergent Method, who was the lead on this project of the strategic plan, come present before the commissioners, going over the plan. And the only changes that we made to the plan were actually a few wording suggestions that one of the commissioners had related to the mission and the vision statement. So I will go ahead and read that for you. The mission: to promote a high quality of life and maintain a welcoming community for all through effective and responsive governance, exceptional service, and a commitment to environmental stewardship. And then the vision: to be a leading coastal community with unique character where residents, businesses, and visitors thrive in a safe and accessible environment that is protected for generations to come. And again, this strategic plan really sets the course for the city of Rehoboth Beach for the next 5 years, providing that clear framework for decision-making and prioritization. So this was an 8-month process where we had resident engagement, community partner engagement, and I'm very excited about the implementation plan, which is also included in the packet, where we'll be able to come back, present to you quarterly of updates and the progress that staff is making. So it not only holds staff accountable for doing what we say we will do, but it also is a method to communicate out all of the things that we're working on to the public and yourselves. So I'm here for any questions you may have, but ultimately what's asked of you today is formal adoption of the plan, so then the city has a clear mission and vision statement, and then we'll be able to continue moving forward. Thank you.
Are there any questions of City Manager? Commissioner Saunders?
I mentioned this before, but are we going to get hard copies that we can distribute to the public?
Sure, we can make those.
And I think some members of the public would appreciate receiving them.
Of course.
Mayor?
Commissioner Good?
Thank you, City Manager. As you know, I was vehemently against hiring this consultant last July, even before I was sworn into office. But I just want to have it in public session for the record, your assurances you've already given me, that now that we paid the $28,000 plus, I believe, 2 or 3 trips for this consultant from Northern California who'd never previously been to Rehoboth Beach to travel here and do the work, your assurance that only you and your staff will be the ones going forward to implement it, and that we will not have to re-engage the consultant for more expensive services of this nature.
Correct. We're done with the consultant. It's
Good to
staff's
hear.
plan. Yes.
Good to hear. I mean, I'm happy to read these quarterly reports, but, you know, generally, I hope we could, you know, we have expanded personnel in City Hall, so normally hopefully we can one day reduce reliance on consultants who are very expensive for a town with only, you know, 3,400 property taxpayers.
I'd like to go to the members of the public. Would anybody like to speak, comment one way or the other on this proposed 2025 strategic plan? Carolyn, can you figure out how to turn the machine on?
Carolyn Diefendorfer, city resident. I just want to say I was impressed with the strategic plan that came out. I personally believe it was money well spent. I think it's always good to have a clear vision of where you're going, and I look forward to getting updates because I thought it was great. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Anybody else? If not, we'll bring it back up here. The agenda item is to consider adoption of the 2025 strategic plan. Can I get a motion?
Would we be able to, sorry, Mayor?
What?
Could we have a motion contingent on doing all of the implementation with in-house employees?
It's whoever makes the motion is what it is.
Okay, so
Somebody,
I
if
would-
somebody doesn't include that,
would
then
like
it's not
to-
in there.
Okay, I would make a motion then, if that's okay, to adopt this strategic plan contingent on no additional consultant services being used for its implementation over the next, say, 5 years. Would I be able to get a second on
Is
that?
there a second? If no second, the motion fails. Would somebody else like to make a motion?
I would like to try, just bring to everyone's attention, Mr. Tedder provided us with an extremely detailed
all right.
form of which department would implement which aspect of this strategic plan. So he does have a, you know, a mission plan to implement it.
Mayor, go ahead.
Go ahead.
If I may make a motion to adopt the strategic plan 2025 as presented by Emergent Method.
We have a second?
Seconds.
We have a motion by Commissioner Patrick Gossen and a second by Mark Saunders to adopt the 2025 strategic plan as presented by Emergent Method. Is there any additional discussion? If not, we'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Mark Saunders,
Yes.
Commissioner Suzanne Good,
I have to vote nay for reasons, I think, which were implied in my request to make sure we had it ironclad that we wouldn't be hiring consultants. Now we're just depending on people's goodwill, which only goes so far. So I have to vote nay.
Commissioner Shanowski,
Aye.
Commissioner Gossett,
Aye.
Commissioner Markert,
Aye.
Commissioner Thier,
Aye.
and the mayor votes aye, and the motion's carried 6-1. Thank you very much. Thank you, Taylor.
Thank you.
With that, let me go back. If you recall, probably a year and a half ago, Commissioner Tony Sharp brought up a topic, and we were addressing the inefficiencies of committees, topics that were not vetted by the commissioners, and then they were heard by the committees, and recommendations were made back to the commissioners, and the commissioners turned a lot of the recommendations down, and there was some discouragement among the committee members, and there was maybe too frequent visitation by city staff and too many hours, but et cetera. If you want a more detailed look, go back to all the agenda item reports starting back, I think, in December and earlier. Commissioner Sharp's goal was to seek efficiency of them, but she wanted to and proposed to sunset 5 advisory committees. At that time, well, they're still in place now, but animal issues, street and transportation, environment, trees and green infrastructure, and what?
Animal issues.
And animal issues. She wanted to sunset those 5 committees and instead have one generalist committee to take care of all that stuff. And we vetted that for a while, in fact, almost a year, and it failed. And I took up the mantle trying to figure out some solutions. One of my earlier write-ups on the agenda item report before you here is the current path. At a previous workshop meeting, this group, only a majority, agreed that the current path would be to retain the current advisory structure rather than going to that single generalist committee, but to sunset and merge the current 5 advisory committees into 2 committees. And those 2 committees would be a new environment committee created from merged trees and green infrastructure plus the environment plus just those 2. And then the second committee would be a new public safety committee created from a merged animal issues committee plus boardwalk and beach committee plus street and transportation committee. At the last meeting, I did a quick write-up of what was involved to make that transition. After the last meeting, we never took a formal vote, but again, the majority was to go this direction. More recently, I started contemplating, and that's what the 2 write-ups are here today. One write-up includes the same sunsetting of 5 advisory committees and merging them into 2 new ones. But I did a careful, detailed analysis of what's involved with it. And there are a lot of steps to sunset the committees, to finish up minutes and approve sets of minutes to the end, I'm skipping over some of the details, but solicit new membership for the new committees, form the new committees. We have to vote on the new committee. We need a new chair for each of the committees. We need to modify, with Ann's help, the website and archive the old committees and put in the new committee. There is a lot of work. And so if we want to go that way, that's fine, but we need to vote on it. Otherwise, I proposed a second agenda item report with the proposal that why don't we take those 5 advisory committees and change them from committee to task force and say that the task force only get their mission from the commissioners up here. So everything's vetted by the time they get it, and then they meet through FOIA, typical input channels, and report back to us, and then we make a decision. To me, it is just so much simpler. And if we need a new task force, an additional task force, because the topic doesn't quite fit into where we're going, then fine, we can do that. If we need to sunset something, then maybe we do that too. But I'm looking for the easier way. Why? Because the burden's fallen on me. However, I am going to share the burden with, whichever way this goes, with the new chairs. None of this works. It all fails if we don't have commissioners step up to be a chair of these committees, because there's a lot of work, whichever way you go. More so with merging them, that the new chairs are going to have to step in and work together and take a look at what was successful and what was not in past topics on other committees, and create a new draft mission statement, present that to the commissioners, et cetera. And so I tried to detail that in these agenda item reports. And so I would like further discussion. I would love to resolve this today by picking one route or the other to go. And then have two chairs step up and work with me, and I can help give them direction. So this is your opportunity to give me more feedback.
Mayor, if I could, please.
Commissioner Thier.
Yeah, between the committees and the task forces, is the administrative workload the same?
Yes, there's no difference.
There's no
The
difference.
only difference is that, there's almost no difference. But again, the biggest thing is that the topics are vetted by the commissioners. Now, that would happen either way, right? So if you're on a committee or a task force and you have, you're a member, and you've got a topic that you want to come in front of your task force, then you need to get your chair to bring it up here and sponsor that, so to speak, and say, hey, here's what we'd like to do. If somebody comes back and says, hey, we would like to revisit banning gasoline engine lawnmowers in the town, then we would not debate the whole thing, but we would maybe discuss whether we want to send it back or not. It could be that, oh, no, it's not, we're not ready for that. It's too quick after we turned it down before. Or it could be, goodness, it's been 7 years since we last had that topic. Maybe it's more ripe to revisit it now because the caliber of battery-operated lawnmowers are much higher than they used to be. So yeah, the workload's the same. Now, understand also that previous agenda item reports made before these articulate the problems that we had with the efficiencies, the lack of efficiencies in committees. And there were some suggestions made on how to resolve that. Well, you don't get city staff to come automatically to your task force or committee meetings without going through the city manager, so that has a kind of a control to it, and you don't do the same topic over and over and over again. If you can't get it done in 2 or 3 meetings, then maybe you need smaller topics or cut it up more or whatever. But all those recommendations for efficiencies made in earlier agenda item report apply forward to whichever way we go. So, Commissioner Saunders.
To be clear, would we be still combining the task forces into 2? Or could we combine some? And my second part of my question is, we don't have, for instance, a safety committee currently. So would we be creating a safety committee task force?
That's up to this committee. I'm trying to make it easy.
I
I'm
understand.
trying to
I'm
say,
clear on what you're
leave
saying.
everything the heck alone, call them task force, and go forward from there. I'm getting a no, so I expect a public input shortly.
So to answer that question, based upon the agenda item on what's out there, one proposal is to go to 2 committees, right? And the other is to just change the names from the existing committees to task forces. I don't think you could make that big change. Yeah, you can't merge those 2 together, at least for purposes of today.
I just wanted to see if we could combine the task forces instead of having 6 of 3 or 4 or whatever.
And the answer is yes, but before we go to the public, let's.
I'm sorry, Mr. Walden.
That's all right.
Well, the agenda item today is to go to 2.
You have one agenda item that's to go to 2 committees.
Okay.
The other agenda item is to change all the existing committees, name them task forces, and then adopt the new protocol.
Okay. And if we go to 2, we're going to call those task force instead
No.
of committees? They're going to be committees.
There'll be committees. So we'll have the committee proposal, that's 2. We'll have the task force proposal, that's many more.
Mayor?
But that's on the agenda, and that's the specific path we're going today, that if we have a vote, it needs to mirror one of those 2. However, into the future, we can change what we want.
Mayor?
Add more task force, merge more, whatever. Commissioner Good?
Just to simplify it, it seems like there'd be a short-term extra workload from consolidating into 2 committees, maybe a short-term extra workload. But if we have any long-run thinking, it seems like that will long-term reduce the workload, the minutes, the city staff's time, which, it crowds out they're doing other things by definition if they're sitting in meetings. I've been in some of these committee meetings, and I don't necessarily think it's always the best use of city staff's time. So I think we should keep that in mind. We might have a short-term increased workload this summer, which is unfortunate, but inevitable because for FOIA reasons, you can't just not produce the minutes from, that are missing and they have to be approved by current committee members. But yeah, so I like this idea that long-term, we might reduce some of the burden on staff and just the general number of meetings which seem to overwhelm people, and no one can keep track of what's going on, not even the Cape Gazette reporter. He often can't even attend all of these meetings.
Anybody else before we go to the public? And I'm willing to stay here until we resolve this tonight, so.
Well,
Commissioner Barker?
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for making it work. And as I don't know if I am or I'm not, but the chair of the Trees and Green Infrastructure Committee, the big issue for me at least has been participation, and because we have adhered to this idea of having live meetings, and I would like to consider, if we're going to go another route to a task force, if we have more people who are not, or we have property owners here who I think want to be engaged and they like to be involved, but they have to be here. And if we could go to virtual meetings for some, at least for some of these things, or have some kind of restrictions with regard to that, we're typically discussing things, we're not deciding things, or we may come to some consensus, but then we have to bring it back to the commission. I would like to think that if there was a way that we could have basically a turnaround for a discussion of something and then proposing it to the commission, that we could do that within a month. But it would be really kind of tough to do in terms of having getting sort of approval of what we're going to talk about for the meeting, have the meeting, then come back. I think you're going to double the time in order to be able to do that. So I would really like to seriously talk about or consider if we're going to reconstitute these committees or task forces with people who may not be able to be here all the time for the live meeting, that we could have some sort of a virtual meetings that would suffice, for the things that we're talking about. And I don't know if that's in the cards or not, but I'd like to propose it.
Well, it's not on the table today.
Okay, right, but I just want to know.
Period. It's not on the table today.
And
so.
the other thing I want to add is the staff time that we dealt with was dealing with the staff, like for example, with the city arborists and stuff like that. I wrote my own minutes, so it wasn't like we needed staff time for that. But it was basically for certain key staff people to come. Didn't have to wait they didn't have to be here for the whole meeting and so forth and so on. But it was just basically to get either advice or status or things from city staff. So I think you could certainly make the city staff component, you could minimize it. So
anything else before I go to the public? Carolyn?
Carolyn Diefendorfer, city resident. I think the way to go is committees. Task force implies you have a specific task to accomplish. And once that task is accomplished, task forces go away.
Exactly.
Are you going to, every time a topic comes up that you deem worthy of discussion, Are you going to go out for a new task force? It would seem to me the short pain of going from 5 committees to 2 and sticking with committees where people serve for a specific term is in the long run much easier, much less labor intensive. And I agree with Commissioner Markert. There were times when city staff came because they were interested in the discussion, not because they had to participate in the discussion. Yes, there were times when in some of the meetings you wanted somebody to come in because you were talking about a specific topic that might have impacted Public Works. So you had the Public Works people come, that kind of thing. But I think you're going to get better participation from property owners if they're on a committee for a specific period of time instead of going to task force where it's for that specific task and then task is done. So let's come up with another task force. I just think in the long run, you're asking for trouble going with a task force for all of this. The other thing is in a task force meeting, I don't know if there's the potential for citizen comment at the end normally. But in committees, there definitely is, and that's how maybe some new ideas bubble up. And granted, you all need to bless the topics, but if the committee itself doesn't think it's even worthy of the topic being brought to you to say, can we work on this? I just think it's making it more cumbersome if you go to task force. Thank you.
Carolyn. We know you're one of the more active constituents, so we appreciate your opinion.
I
So-
just wanted to answer one of the questions. Yes, because it becomes a public body, all public bodies have to allow for public comment under the revised FOIA statute.
And we do, yeah, we do. Patrick, one of the last meetings you mentioned you weren't supportive of this, but you didn't articulate, and I wish you would, because I don't support some of this either, but I'm trying to make it go, and I'm trying to resume the committee process.
My comment is just, what is the problem we're trying to fix? It seems to be, participation in committees. If you look back over the history of committees, the same subject matter comes up every 3 or 4 or 5 years, repeated. If you get a different membership on the committee, they seem to be items that are of particular interest to an individual that affects their street, their block, their stop sign, their grandchildren. And so I think, coming from, if you will, the commission's down to a task force or a committee is more effective. Attending some of the committee meetings, there's a lot of frustration in that the committees work quite a long time on a specific issue, bring it to the commission, and the commission votes it down. Or one committee will make one recommendation to support A, and a separate committee working on the same subject makes a recommendation to support B. So there are different opinions. It really is the stronger voice of who's a member of the committee that brings those issues forward. So it is topic focused, and that's why my thought process is on a task force, is that it can be worked on as a specific topic that needs to be accomplished, as opposed to individuals bubbling up, to be very frank, personal issues that they want affected in their communities.
Thank you. So it's in your hands. Yeah, we have. What I would like to do is formalize which direction we want to go. So if you're agreeable to sunsetting and merging the current 5 advisory committees into 2 committees, then there's your wording on for a motion right there.
I would like to make a motion, Mayor, on that first option.
Are you gonna?
Point of clarification before we go, if I may.
Yeah.
Would either option here have the necessity of sunsetting these committees? Because you described an amount of work that had to take place for sunsetting, but do both of these
I'd rather,
Options
I
require
think I'd rather
sunsetting?
work with the chair and Ann on sunsetting, because
But what my question was, does either option require sunsetting of a committee?
yes, I would say yes.
Both. Both do, okay.
And just start all over again. Yeah.
Mayor, if I
answers-
could. Mayor, if I could, please.
Suzanne, you have Commissioner Thayer?
Yeah. So if I'm following correctly with the task force, mayor and commissioners assign the tasks, committees, tasks can bubble up from the committees.
Committees, the commissioners still vet the topics.
Okay.
That's where part of the problem has been in the past. As Commissioner Gossett articulated. They come up with their own topics and invest a lot of time in them, admittedly, but then they bring them back here and the commissioners have shown no interest.
Yeah. So based on what we have in front of us to vote on today, right, we've either keep the same committees, we have same number of same committees, same number of committees we have today, but we call them task force, or we consolidate them down to two, right? I mean, that's generally what we're voting on, right? So I really want to see it consolidated down to two for a number of different reasons. I appreciate the concerns about with committees and you know, they can come up with ideas, think about ideas, but ultimately they've got to work up to the mayor and commissioners for any sort of action. Two would be my preference. Is there not some sort of middle ground here where the city manager comes up with policies and procedures for the way they operate, right? Because I would think that if the committees come up with an idea that the city manager believes is probably not going to get heard by, you know, get any support within the mayor and commissioners, the city manager could have a conversation with the chair, whoever, right? So that that particular topic doesn't go too far before, you know, it comes up here to the mayor and commissioners and is, you know, rejected. I mean, to me, it sounds like it's probably, you know, task force, but I'd like to see two rather than some large number of committees.
Well,
But that, we're not voting on that today.
Well, Suzanne, is that what you're going to motion to approve?
No, and may I go ahead with the motion as Max has suggested? It could be seen by the public on page 63 out of 73 of the attachments on
Is there a
today.
line number?
There is indeed. The most important verbiage starts on line 13. That's what I was prepared to read. But my rationale for making this motion in 1 minute is twofold. There's always been an inherent problem with that environment committee because they're constrained by DENREC mandates, and really a lot of that has to be handled. I mean, we all need to do a lot more environmentally, but a lot of that is dictated by at the state level, the federal level, the county level. So to me, that environment committee was always problematic. It was a pet project of a resident who has since moved to Alexandria. The second rationale I have, I've always felt animal issues is sort of conjoined with Boardwalk and Beach Committee because we currently allow dogs on the beach, for instance, from October 1st to April 30th. But there's a good basis for making sure the Boardwalk Committee and Boardwalk and Beach Committee addresses that. So it seems inefficient and redundant to have that handled by two separate groups of people. Streets and Transportation also seems a natural add-on to Beach and Boardwalk because a lot of issues like bicycles, for instance, on sidewalks or bicycles on the boardwalk beyond hours when they're allowed, are similar issues. So you'd want similar people with similar expertise and background to deal with that. So I would like to make a motion to retain the current advisory committee structure, but to sunset and merge the current 5 advisory committees into 2 new committees as follows. Number 1, a new environment committee created from merged trees and green infrastructure and environment committees. Number 2, a new Public Safety Committee created from merged Animal Issues Committee, number 1. Number 2, Boardwalk and Beach Committee, and number 3, Streets and Transportation Committee. So do I have a second on these 2 new umbrella committees?
I second it.
We have a motion by Commissioner Suzanne Good and a second by Commissioner Mark Saunders to retain the current advisory committee structure, but to sunset and merge the current 5 advisory committees into 2 new committees. Number 1, the new Environment Committee created from merged trees and green infrastructure and environment committees. And number 2, a new Public Safety Committee created from merged Animal Issues Committee plus Boardwalk and Beach Committee plus Streets and Transportation Committee. Is there any additional discussion among the members of the public? Is there any additional discussion up here? Commissioner Saunders?
Thank you. I just wanted to note that what I dislike about a task force is it doesn't bring the public in to speak on other subjects. And I always thought a committee was the opportunity for the public that didn't want to come here today to talk to the commissioners, to bring their pet peeve, if you will, and be heard. And so that's why I'm voting yes on Suzanne's proposition.
All right, any other discussion? I'm going to do a roll call vote. We rotate who we start with. Commissioner Good,
Aye.
Commissioner Shanowski,
Aye.
Commissioner Gossett,
Nay.
Commissioner Markert,
Aye.
Commissioner Thier,
Aye.
Commissioner Saunders,
Aye.
and the chair votes no. And so, but the motion wins 5-2. Very good. We've accomplished something. Now, the next thing is, we need 2 chairs for these. And I hope that somebody, two of you will step up to the plate very quickly. Thank you very much. Thank you for, Carolyn, your input also. With that, we're going to move on to the next item of business, which is consider award of bid for the implementation of a water interconnect with Tidewater Utilities near the city's well number 8 facilities. And whoever takes care of that, I would hope you indicate when the bids came in and how quickly we had to do a turnaround. So apologize we couldn't get embedded support documents to you earlier. Is that embedded in the agenda or, because this is,
Yes, it is, Mayor.
It's here. It's embedded. Oh, I missed it.
which one am I doing?
Presentation. Well, actually, Ian, can you switch over the computer?
Let him operate it.
Thank you. So, good afternoon, and in January, I presented the initial framework for installing one or more metered connections or an interconnect with Tidewater Utilities. Now, Tidewater Utilities is headquartered in Dover and a wholly owned subsidiary of Middlesex Water. And the purpose of this is to improve resilience of our water system in an emergency. So I'm going to go over the background a little bit about it. Bob Palmer from Beacon Engineering will go over the technical details, go over the bid results, financial aspects, and staff recommendations. And then questions, feel free to ask any questions during this, and if I know it's going to be addressed in the presentation, I may just ask you that, say that, and ask you to wait for an answer on it. So background of this, and there's a lot more detail in the agenda item report. I'm not going to read the entire thing. In 2017, Well 6 was taken out of service. Well 6 is in Breezewood subdivision, and it was taken out due to a high iron content. This past year on July 4th weekend, we really had an unprecedented usage. At 10 p.m. on Friday, July 5th, I received a call from Robert Downs, who's head of the water department, and we had a three-way call with Beacon Engineering. We had tank levels dropping on both our towers and Dewey Tower while all the wells were operating. We attribute this largely to irrigation. It eventually stabilized, but we kind of have talked about this and viewed this as a shot across the bow, that we need to take steps to improve the resilience of our system in case there's an emergency, a problem with one of our wells that would prevent us from using it. So we requested that residents alternate days of irrigation, and we intend to do something similar this year and probably broaden that to Dewey Beach and our out-of-town customers. So, as mentioned, the mayor mentioned about the timing of this. We really want to get this operational by July 4th weekend. We still think that's very possible. Beacon Engineering has been doing the design, and it requires close coordination with us and on the city, as well as state agencies and obviously Tidewater. So what we did not put it out to formal bid in the newspaper. Mr. Palmer and I spoke what we did was he contacted 6 general contractors that are very capable and well qualified to do the work, and gave them the bid proposal and an invitation to bid. So 3 of them bid, and I'll go over the bid results later. And again, if we did not do it this way, if we had put it out to bid through the newspaper, it would have taken at least a month longer, and there's no possible way we would have had it ready for July 4th weekend and the rest of the summer, which again is our goal, and we still feel is possible. So again, I'm going to go over the financial aspects and the bid results later, but I'd like to turn this over to Bob Palmer from Beacon Engineering to go over some of the technical specifics. Bob.
Thanks, Henry. Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners and members of the public. For the record, my name is Bob Palmer with Beacon Engineering. As Henry said, last year over the years, we've seen increasing usage and increasing demand on the water system, despite not a significant amount of growth, number of connections. And last summer, things really went awry. Water level dropping, we lost nearly a third of the combined water storage capacity between the 2 Rehoboth Beach towers and the Dewey Beach Tower, which is significant considering the production capacity that the city has. So we've been working with Tidewater Utilities for quite some time now about how to make the interconnect work, where it should be situated in order to minimize cost and maximize the return. Early discussions, we were considering 2 locations. We wound up settling in on neither of those 2 locations, but instead are proposing this connection point at what everyone knows as the Well 8 facility. And essentially there will be an 8-inch connection to the Tidewater system based on the demand that we intend to place on the Tidewater system. A 6-inch meter is what's required. And the reason why the meter is smaller than the main size that we're using to make this connection is because that meter can pass the 350 to 1,000 gallons per minute that we're looking to have in reserve. And the 8-inch main versus a 6-inch main is to reduce the pressure loss between the two systems. The Tidewater Utilities meter, it'll be in a vault outside the fence, so it will be an asset that's completely separate from city assets, so there's no commingling of Rehoboth Beach assets and Tidewater assets. And you'll see in the budget presentation and the bid evaluation, Henry will discuss the particulars, but the reason for the increase in cost from what was budgeted versus what we received on bid day is a result of a separation of city assets from Tidewater assets. The early designs, early discussions, we intended to have the Tidewater flow meter and a pressure reducing valve that would be a city asset. We had those in one vault, and we wound up not being able to agree among the various players that were part of the design review on how to accomplish that. And with the city, something that I was not aware of, but the water department doesn't have full confined space capabilities because virtually none of their assets, none of the work that they do is subject to confined space. There's only very few locations for maintenance. And so there was a decision made to move the pressure reducing valve from the meter vault into the Well 8 building. So we significantly increased the amount of water main connecting the Tidewater meter vault to the city system. And there's quite a bit of flanged piping and modifications inside the building in order to house this altitude valve. So those are the reasons for the why the bids came in higher than what we had budgeted. The entire system between the meter and the connection point in Well 8, that will be owned and operated by the City of Rehoboth. The meter vault and the connection to Tidewater, that would be owned and operated by Tidewater Utilities. And the intent for this system is not to be an online, we're using it every day, it's there in rotation with the city's well fields. This is a backup, a resiliency. If we don't need it, there's no plans to use it. The expectation would be that this connection would be available from mid-June through mid-August with notice given between the city's water department and the operations staff at Tidewater Utilities. And Tidewater Utilities would be there to support the city's, the city's needs. There are a gaggle of technical components that I could get into, but for sake of brevity, I'll stop talking and allow Commissioner Gossett to ask his question.
Thank you. Didn't know it was that obvious, but do we have assurances from Tidewater that they can provide that capacity of water during that period of time? And if so, what is the flow rate?
Sure, yes, sir. We do have assurances from the operations staff from Tidewater Utilities. I'm sure you remember from back in the 1990s how Tidewater Utilities came to be. They have spent hundreds of millions of dollars, and they've had hundreds of millions of dollars of development input into building their own internal system resiliency. So gone are the days of 5 mobile home parks scavenged together in order to be able to kind of sort of provide water supply most of the time. It isn't that way anymore. We, Beacon Engineering, through separate contracts with Tidewater Utilities, have designed and overseen the construction of several elevated storage tanks in the Rehoboth, in the Sussex County systems, both here in the Rehoboth area and also down in the Ocean View area. And we're working on 3 more water towers for Tidewater Utilities in Kent County. So to answer your question without continuing to ramble, the Tidewater Utilities has ample supply, treatment, and storage capacity within what they call the Rehoboth District to support Rehoboth's request of 350 to 1,000 gallons per minute. They have also, at their own expense, made many, and are continuing to make many interconnects so that all of these subdivisions that are being, these modern subdivisions that are being constructed, Tidewater Utilities at their own expense is connecting Walden with Cedar Grove and things of that nature, so that the Home Depot water tower, for example, is directly connected through multiple avenues to the Rehoboth District tank, which is behind Beacon Middle School. The Angola Tower out in Angola Neck is, again, connected through multiple pathways so that they truly have a networked system, very much like what the city has in town and out on the highway.
Great, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mayor?
Commissioner Good?
Just a broader question, but I think it's worth examining. I mean, at the margin, it's the communities of North Shores and Dewey Beach, which put this this extra demand on our system. Is there consideration given to asking, I'm excluding Henlopen Acres because they have their own water treatment plant, although their treatment plant, by coincidence, failed last July 6th, which made the situation even worse last summer. Is there consideration given to asking Dewey Beach, for example, to make this investment instead of Rehoboth Beach? Since we're their water supplier, and I know it's considered a profit center for us, but that might, to me, that's something worth considering.
Sure. So I'm happy to field my opinion on that. Henry would probably be the best to answer this, but Dewey Beach and Henlopen Acres are both wholesale customers of the city of Rehoboth Beach. So it would be up to negotiation through those water service agreements in order to impose additional tariffs, additional impact fees, if you will, to the operation of their systems. Through past negotiations that I've been involved with, directly and indirectly, I'm not sure how that mechanism would work, but it's certainly something worth, worth discussing.
Because
for sure.
we're talking at least $200,000 now, of which we only had like 80,000 budgeted, which we haven't spent yet. But yeah, it would be primarily North Shores and Dewey Beach, possibly West Rehoboth as well. But Henlopen Acres is sort of a hybrid because they have their own treatment plant, except when it fails, as it did last July 6th, naturally, like peak demand. So that's something I'd like, maybe Mr. Matlos can figure out if we need to at least ask for some cost sharing in this likely $200,000 investment.
Mayor?
Commissioner Saunders?
Piggyback on what Commissioner Good just said. Am I correct, though? I think Henry had told us before that we will be buying this wholesale, if you will, let's say $5 a gallon, and selling it to these other municipalities for, say, $7 per 1,000 gallons. So we are making a profit on it, are we not? Are we not buying it wholesale and selling it retail?
No, on this, and I'll get into the cost a little bit on it. I think it was $9 per 1,000 gallons. And again, this, I'm sorry? $7.97. Okay, $8 a 1,000 gallons. And again, like Mr. Palmer said, and something I did fail to say, we are in negotiations now to get for a location to have well 6 back online, which would further improve our resilience. That would not happen till 2026, though. So the goal on this, frankly, is we get this set up and we, frankly, hopefully never have to use it.
But just so I'm clear in my mind, if we do use it, we're paying them $8 a
Yes.
gallon. And how much do we charge to West Rehoboth if we sell them the 100,000 gallons?
Well, the one that's the bulk customer is Dewey Beach, and is it 6? I think it's $6 per 1,000 gallons. However, that agreement. Well, again, this is an emergency. Yeah. That's the only purpose, and I hope we never have to use it. This is really protecting city assets, and 2025. I'm not sure what month it is, but the the 5-year agreement with Dewey Beach is up this year. Later this year, I believe.
Mayor, if I could, please. Thank you.
There.
You say 26 for the new well. When in 26?
That is an estimate. We just basically received a handshake agreement of, to be able to put of a location for the well. So there's a lot more drafting the formal agreement agreed by all parties, design of it, getting approval by the Office of Drinking Water. So 26 would, again, it definitely wouldn't be in 25. I would say probably at least a year from now.
Okay. Because one of the things I'm trying to understand is, once that new well comes online, we probably don't need this interconnect, right?
I'd still like to have it. I worry a lot, so.
Okay. Okay. So the question is, it sounds like from the timing, it's probably not ready. Just based on the steps we'd have to go through for the new well, having it in place before next summer is probably not likely.
Okay. Optimistic.
Optimistic at best. Okay. All right. Mr. Cheddar, do you know offhand, they had said $6 is what Dewey pays us. Do you know what the other municipalities pay us that?
I'll have to look it up.
Okay, all right.
I know that North Shores is double, like a little over $12 per 1,000 gallons, but that's unusual. Dewey gets it in bulk, and I'm pretty sure I heard from Mr. Dukes, the finance chief, I think they only pay between $4 and $5 per gallon. So buying it from Tidewater at basically $8 per gallon, it raises a lot of red flags for me. However, having said that, if we're dealing with both the summer of 2025 now and 2026, where we won't have this additional well online, yeah, we can't, we have to do something, obviously.
And Commissioner North Shores does not buy in bulk.
Correct. It's per gallon. It's like, but they have their own wells for irrigation, so they don't tend to buy a huge amount of, well, it depends how many showers they take, but they pay like a little over $12 per 1,000 gallons. The problem with Henlopen Acres, they have their own water treatment plant, but as you know, last summer we had to bail them out because their plant failed. I believe it was July 6th. I happen to remember the date. One of my children was born on July 6th, but it was like we had this, people were asked to conserve, and as Mr. Dukes, or it might have been you, I apologize, I can't remember who told me, the requests for conservation were not all that successful. You have people renting a house for the week, they're here to use the jacuzzi and the swimming pool, whatever, nonstop. So we have a real problem in that the incentive to conserve, especially people renting a house, they aren't paying per gallon. It's a fixed cost part of their rental tab. So we are really in a vulnerable position, in my view, when it comes to requesting or requiring, if you can even do that, conservation.
Well, we do believe that asking people to irrigate on 3 days a week, one side of the street on 1 week, on one 3 days, and the other side on the other side helps. What that does, that levels out the demand. And again, we'll work on that, on getting something out to the homeowners, and also get Dewey Beach involved in that also. Okay.
Move on to the cost?
Commissioner Thayer.
Yeah. Maybe move on to the cost presentation.
Okay.
Henry, you decide what's next.
Okay. So the bid results, as mentioned, Mr. Palmer sent out to 6 general contractors that are capable of doing this work and do high-quality work, and 3 of them submitted bids. And I opened the bids with Mr. Esposito on 2 days ago in the Commissioner's Caucus Room, and these are the results of the bids. 3 contractors, Teal Construction, George and Lynch, and Hopkins Construction. The low was George and Lynch, in the amount of $197,329.92. So the financial aspects of it, though, as Mr. Palmer talked about, our initial thoughts was it was going to be about $150,000. And that increased due to several of the technical considerations he mentioned, including the elimination of confined space. And I've done a lot of confined space work, and you definitely want to eliminate that when you have the capability of doing so. So initially, we were hoping half the project, or expecting half the project to be done in FY25 and about half this year. But due to delays in the design and the agreements with Tidewater, the construction portion will obviously be done all this year. And only $80,000 was budgeted for it in FY26. So speaking with the water department, we had a $40,000 backhoe trailer purchase planned. We plan on tabling that for now and potentially considering reducing the number of water meters to be replaced in FY26. And we evaluate that and the CIP of the water department and other budgetary aspects of the water department in October 26, and make the determinations then about the backhoe trailer purchase and the water meter replacement when that comes due.
Commissioner Saunders?
Mr. Massoff, I see a tremendous difference in the bids from 197,000 to 381,000. That's like almost 100%. How do they explain that? I'm suspicious of the low bid, in other words,
I'm not suspicious of the low bid of the work from these contractors and from George and Lynch. They do a lot of work. They do a lot of work in the city. It's a business decision. It's their choice. We saw that with even with the Beach Patrol. DVB, Delmarva Veteran Builders, was $620,000 under the next lowest bid. And for our paving contract also, the one that was awarded the work, Mumford & Miller, was, I think, $200,000 less. And so I'm confident, very confident that George and Lynch would do a good job for us on this.
Mayor?
Commissioner Good?
I'm not necessarily opposed to this, but it would have to, we'd have to, especially as we're renegotiating Dewey Beach, which buys its water in bulk from us. But I'm worried about delaying the backhoe trailer purchase based on the need for it. And also, the water meter replacement is sort of an ongoing, necessary infrastructure project. I'm not that interested in canceling other water-related projects. I think we need to rein in spending on other things or make a really serious effort, because we wouldn't need this resiliency if we weren't providing utilities to all these areas which are way outside city limits. So I've spoken to Mr. Dukes at some length, but the arrangements that were put in place, for instance, going back to the 1980s, they don't seem as relevant now that people take long showers, use much more water than each of those connections was originally, using in July, and you have more year-round people. I think we have to look at this more holistically. I'm hoping I'll get some support, because let's say it's 200,000. The city of Rehoboth should not be the only party paying that 200,000 once we redo the negotiations with Dewey, for instance. Is that next year or at the end of this year, maybe?
It expires December 31st of 2025.
Well, that's propitious timing, because to me, this is something that, again, at the margin, like when we had to bail out Henlopen Acres the same weekend that the whole system almost melted down in terms of water provision, we are on the hook for all these jurisdictions who don't pay property taxes in the city, So we have to figure out if financially all of this still makes sense at the levels that were negotiated in some cases in the 80s, 90s, or some in 2017. But that would be, I'm very concerned about that. I've been concerned about this for a while, but I've been having difficulty getting accurate information about whether the rates are equitable. You know, yes, North Shores pays double. Breezewood pays 50% more than in-town customers. We have it's so arcane, all the different rates. I'm not sure anyone, myself included, unless I were being paid as a consultant, wants to go delving and figure out what is fair to each water customer. And also it's similar problem with wastewater treatment customers, and we have a ton of those way outside city limits now that the county has brought more of that to us. But that's my concern. I mean, it's, you know, it's $200,000. It's not, thank goodness, $2 million or something, but it's like the beginning of Rehoboth Beach somehow always sort of being in charge, and maybe that's not the way to go on this.
Mayor?
Taylor?
So I do want to point out that this is in our water enterprise fund, so it is separate from like the general fund or even wastewater. So it is just water expenses.
Go ahead, Tenny.
So the staff recommendation is we'll read this. Resilience of our water system is the main benefit of this project to ensure we are well positioned to meet the potable water demands of all our customers. Staff recommends approving the bid from George and Lynch in the amount of $197,392.29.92 to construct the metered connection between the city of Rehoboth Beach and Tidewater Utilities.
Is there
Any questions?
Any member of the public that would like to say anything? Walter and then Francis? Identify yourself in relationship to the city of Walter.
Walter Birmingham, 123 Hennepin Avenue. I operate or help operate several smaller water systems for parks and warehouses. Have familiarity with operating with drinking water out of the state of Delaware and Dover, very capable people. But we need to remember, and we haven't had a water and sewer committee a long time, but we went into the franchise business, and we are a utility. And I've had a discussion with Mr. Palmer. I haven't had a talk with Henry, but there is a necessity that they have spoken about, and I'm not happy that it's not two ways. They have spared you the detail that one system is a higher pressure than the other, but I trust that it will be done right. And this needs to be done because we have franchise here in many cases issued by the state of Delaware, and we have an obligation to serve these people that we have previously connected. Thank you.
Thank you, Walter. Francis?
I have two questions.
Name?
Francis Kelleher, 318 Stokely. Two questions and then a comment. Can I ask the questions? One question I had was, where does Tidewater's water come from? What is the source of the water compared to our well water?
Sure, good question. It comes from the same aquifer that the city of Rehoboth Beach uses, the Columbia Aquifer, which is the superficial aquifer in our area.
Okay.
So it's the same general water quality that the city of Rehoboth currently enjoys.
Okay, that was my first. My second was, Henry, I was wondering after the beacon engineer mentioned mentioned the water towers, have we ever done a cost assessment of what it would cost to build an additional water tower? You don't have to answer, but that's like a question from a money perspective. But what I wanted to comment on, and I might be repeating myself because I've said this before, the issue about getting property owners to control their irrigation. I mean, I'm very much supportive of that, as you know, and Mr. Tedder knows it drives me nuts to think about the amount of costly drinking water that is just being wasted on irrigation. The problems are the irrigation is often set up by landscapers, and it's not a matter of like where you can just ask people to do something. They have to get their landscapers to program those water irrigating systems to do what, if you will, you would want them to do. So I don't think you can accomplish the goals of not wasting water and irrigation by just simply asking. I think it needs a real program directed effort, and I think you can regulate it, and I think that needs to be done, not only alternating days, but how much time is spent. Are you irrigating twice a day? I mean, it's a bad situation out there with the irrigation because again, a lot of people don't care what it costs. Money is no problem. So, and fourth, I want to make a comment that I do get emotional and upset when the cost of water and water comes up, because Mr. Dukes admitted to us 2 winters ago that yes, the average homeowners in Dewey pay less than the average homeowner in Rehoboth for their water bill. So I just think what Suzanne just brought up, the idea of who's paying what needs to be looked at very carefully. So that, I guess, is a financial accounting thing. But along with this, I think who's paying what fees really needs to be delved into.
Thank you, Francis. Anybody else, members of the public? Carolyn?
Carolyn Diefendorfer, city resident. I'm just going to sort of piggyback on Francis's comment about the setting up of the irrigation systems. I'm going to go on a limb and say most of the irrigation is occurring on rental properties. Your renters, the property owner is not going to want the renter to touch their system to make these changes for them. So I think you're going to get very little bang for the buck on trying to do those, asking for restrictions, because it's just not going to happen. I mean, we have an irrigation system. We actually went to a well this winter so that we don't have this issue, but I personally set our irrigation system, and I've helped my neighbors do it. But a lot of people get intimidated by looking at those and trying to figure out how to change their schedules on there. So I think you're going to not get a lot of bang for the buck on that. And I think having this as an emergency backup is critical, that you don't really have a choice but to approve it. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Patty?
My name is Patty Brown. I live at One State Road, Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. We're required to have green space in Rehoboth, right? Dewey Beach doesn't have green space. All they have is concrete and sand. So that's that for that.
All right. Thank you, Patty. Anybody else? Henry, do you have any more? Bob, anything else? All right, so.
Mayor, if I could, please.
Comes back up here and entertain a motion at the appropriate time. Commissioner Thayer?
Thank you, Mayor. I mean, we discussed this during the budget cycle as something that, the redundancy was needed. I think the difference today is that it's about $90,000 more than we thought it would be. I don't need to say this, Taylor, because, we talk about this all the time. So, this puts us, $90,000 over budget in a particular category. We're very early in the budget year, so I know you're going to look for ways to offset this. Whether that's the replacement trailer, water meter replacements, I tend to agree with Commissioner Good that we should there's a lot of benefits to the residents that get those. So something that should move forward as planned. I am reluctant to reduce the number of meters we put in, but, I'm confident you'll find, the money to offset this overage of 90 grand. So.
Anybody make a motion?
Mayor, if I may, to ensure the resiliency of our water system and to ensure we are well-positioned to meet the potable water demands of all of our customers, I would like to make a motion to approve the bid from George and Lynch Incorporated in the amount of $197,329.92 to construct the metered connection between the City of Rehoboth Beach and Tidewater Utilities.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Patrick Gossett and a second by Commissioner Ed Chernowski to award bid to George and Lynch, Inc. in the amount of $197,329.92 for the meter, for the interconnect, as noted. Is there any further discussion up here? If not, Commissioner Chernowski?
Aye.
Commissioner Gossett?
Aye.
Commissioner Markert?
Aye.
Commissioner Thier?
Aye.
Commissioner Saunders?
Aye.
Commissioner Good?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, and the motion's carried unanimously. Thank you for your work, Bob Palmer. Thank you for your work, Henry, on this, and thank you for coming, the Water Department. With that, we'll move right along to our next bit of business, which is consider reappointments to the Planning Commission for remainder of their current terms, each term ending in September 2026. We have John Dewey, Nan Hunter, and Mike Strange that have been serving well, and I nominate them for reappointment. Could I get a motion to reappoint the slate?
So moved.
Mayor, I'd like to comment ahead of.
Wait, we have a motion on the floor. Would somebody second it?
Second.
So we have a motion by Commissioner Gossett and a second by Commissioner Thier, excuse me, to reappoint the slate before us to the Planning Commission for their terms ending in September 2026. Is there discussion? Commissioner Good?
Thank you, Mayor. I hesitate, and I would ask that some of you consider not reappointing. These three members of the Planning Commission are in some large part responsible for the project on the south side of Rehoboth Avenue, the Bellhaven, having already taken 6 years, which includes huge legal fees accruing to taxpayers. I think we need fresh voices, people who are more creative in getting to yes with developers than these three people are well-intended. They really always believe they're doing what's in the best interest of the city. They think that spending 4 hours discussing a statue or like a little flourish on top of the roof where no one can sleep, it's not like an extra hotel room, makes sense. But the problem is they've gotten us so bogged down. I would like to see you, Mr. Mayor, appoint 3 different people, including maybe some, I'm happy to give you some names, people who are themselves real estate investors who know a little bit about what large projects like hotels should look like. So I'm concerned about continuing with the status quo with these 3 people.
Thank you, Suzanne. Is there any other comment here? I'd like to go to the public. Is there any member of the public that have a comment on this or a recommendation? If not, Suzanne, you mentioned, or you intimated a 6-year period of time for the Bellhaven, and that's not accurate, because what I think you're trying to do is blame the Planning Commission on causing a delay of up to 6 years, and that's.
So I'm not entirely blaming them.
Well, that's
no.
not, and it's not true. Is there any further discussion up here? If not, I'd like to call the question. Again, this is to reappoint the slate of John Dewey, Nan Hunter, and Mike Strange for the terms ending in September 2026. Commissioner Sernowski? Did I start with you last time? Commissioner Gossett?
Aye.
Commissioner Markert?
I want to make the comment that we have probably the most robust, dedicated planning commission that I can remember. And these three people are dedicated, have a wealth of knowledge and experience. I take it as an affront to intimate that they are less than that.
Bonke, your vote was yes?
Yes.
Commissioner Thier?
Aye.
Commissioner Saunders?
Aye.
Commissioner Good?
Nay.
Commissioner Sernowski?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. The motion's carried 6-1. Thank you very much. With that, we'll move on to the next item of business, which is to discuss and consider an ordinance to amend Chapter 198 entitled Peace and Good Order by inserting a new Article 10, Curfew for Minors. Chief?
Well, good afternoon again. So I guess this request topic comes from the police department. We are asking for each of you to adopt an ordinance to implement a curfew for minors between the hours of 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. within the city limits of Rehoboth Beach. As many of you may recall, over the last 3 years, I've mentioned in the PD's end of the season reports the increased negative behavior of juveniles. For many years, I think you've asked me, hey, should we put a curfew in place, or what do we need to do? And I've been trying to hold off on that, but seeing more and more negative behavior from some of these minors, I think it's time to bring it forward. Not to mention that our neighboring beach towns have already adopted and implemented curfews for minors. Over the last 3 years, we continue to receive increased complaints from businesses, residents, complaining about the juveniles and actions of them, like drinking underage, drug use, trespassing, just disorderly behavior in general. Over the last 3 years, same time period, juvenile arrests have increased by 110%. So, and my officers now are asking for this to be implementing, for me to bring this forward. We've actually reviewed this proposal, curfew, with the AG's office, local AG's office in Sussex County, to get their comments. Of course, our city solicitor. I've personally met with business owners. I asked the Chamber of Commerce to assist without putting out a survey, and we did get some feedback on that. And I say Carol's here to make some comments, I'm sure, or later on about that. And quite honestly, each of us has an obligation. That includes each of you as city officials and the police department to protect our youth. Many times at night when we do make these arrests with these juveniles, we'll contact the parent or guardian of the youth, and they're like, well, what are they doing here in Rehoboth Beach? And of course, we don't know if they don't know. But I mean, it does come a serious thing when parents don't know where the youths are at. And I get it, things happen, they're staying with friends and so on. But we do have an obligation to protect them from, unfortunately, there are some individuals that are out there in life that will take advantage of others. And when we talk about a curfew, obviously there's exceptions to the rule, but we're not looking at this be heavy-handed at all. This is gonna be a civil citation that a parent or a guardian has to come to our local court for, and all that. And again, just because we detain someone and call a parent doesn't mean we have to give them the citation. We can make sure they just go hit and leave. It's just another tool in our toolbox. I mean, the reality is not all juvenile crime, even though it's increased 110%, happens late at night. But it's just another tool for us to act on because we are seeing this increase. So before I go too far into this, are there any questions or? Yeah.
Mayor?
Commissioner Good?
Just to clarify, I'm assuming the citations would target those 17 and under who are misbehaving, violating various laws, you're not going to be sort of thinking about going around the town looking for high school students, who are out after 11.
That's correct.
Great.
Something's going to bring our attention to them, what we need to go over. We're seeing increased behavior, especially after 11 o'clock with, it's disorderly behavior. That can happen anytime, I get it, but we're seeing as the businesses are closing, they're coming up to the business and shaking the glass doors and scaring the young managers that are in there, and sometimes by themselves while they're cleaning up, and they're calling us. We're seeing an increased request, police on request to actually escort the individuals back to their car or to walk them home if they're staying in town from the young persons working in some of these businesses. Especially some of the foreign students get very alarmed from that and to say how alarmed they are. In a lot of countries, they don't get along necessarily with the police officer. So for them, the foreign students to be contacting law enforcement to escort them, tell us how afraid they are and disruptive. So those are just some of the things that we're seeing over the last few years. So again, this is not a tool, but you're absolutely correct. It's not going to be heavy-handed. We're not looking for it. It's when something's drawn to our attention on why do we need to use it. And even when that attention is brought to us, we plan on reaching out to the parents and all that. So everything is discretion, and it's not going to be heavy-handed at all.
Thank you. Good to hear.
Anybody else up here? I'd like to go to the members, the public. Do you want to speak first?
Sure. I'm just going to ask a couple questions, Chief. One of them is the statistics, so if you don't know the answer, that's okay. Out of the 110% increase in juvenile crime or disturbances over the past 3 years, how much of that is in the hours that you're proposing this curfew from 11 p.m. to 5 a.m.?
We're seeing between 35 and 40%.
40, okay. And I guess I understand the intent is not for this to be heavy-handed, or you're not going to seek out unless it's another tool in your toolbox. But why not just use existing tools like disorderly conduct or anything that's more broad, like instead of sort of having something else that you're able to use?
There's a couple things on that. A lot of those charges you're talking about is a criminal citation. The police departments have always, and it's nationally an issue. People don't want to give criminal citations or criminal arrests have a record on the record for something that's relatively minor. And all. And again, those tools don't get anybody late at night if they're by themselves to protect again the youth. Again, it's not just trying to go after the bad behavior. So protection. Hey, we have a reason you can't be on the beach at 2, 3 in the morning unchaperoned.
Right.
And all. So we have that issue. So the criminal part is the biggest thing that why we don't want to do it. This curfew will give us the option sometimes to have to deal, we can give the parents the citation, where in the other charges, we would not be able to do that. Sometimes the reality is the parent or the guardian needs to be held accountable and to get into the courtroom or at least take off work to be able to address these situations and all. What we see a pattern on these things are usually local Delaware kids. You know, a lot of these people that are on vacation, the parents know where the kids are at, and they're usually spend a full day at the beach or the amusement park or whatever cases go on, and they're going out to dinner and then calling it at night somewhat early. So it's usually our locals, ones we know time in and time again. So. You're right. In times we will use a criminal charge for that, but we certainly don't want to start with that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Saunders?
I understand that we have such a ordinance now in Dewey and Ocean City and so forth. Do you believe since those have gone into effect, those kids have been sort of pushed up to us?
I think there was a small element of that, yes. I know last year some of the kids that were pushed from Dewey Beach actually came over when we had some of the issues. It would be unfair for me to say that happens all the time, but yeah, 5 to 10% of that is from issues like that.
Reason to have this ordinance.
Members of the public, would anybody like to speak? Carol, and then Walter.
Yes, Carol Everhart, Rehoboth Beach, Dewey Beach Chamber of Commerce. So we were happy to be able to assist the police department in getting a survey out. That happened in December of last year and the first part of January this year. Overall, this was just downtown businesses, and overall, they were not opposed to a curfew. The one thing, well, there's two things really that have come up. The biggest one is they would prefer that the curfew start at midnight. Part of that was because of their employees. So some of these places close at 11, and they were just a little bit uncomfortable about were they going to lose employees, were the employees going to be uncomfortable. That was the thinking behind it, okay? So the one thing that's come clear, even recently, is if it can be, begin at midnight and not at 11. That was the number one request. The other one was, which has been brought up before, I know, is lighting on the boardwalk, something like that, that would assist in the crime prevention. But overall, the chamber board was not opposed, but they too had concerns about the 11 instead of midnight. Other than that, we're good.
Ms. Everhart, just so you're aware, and I was not involved in drafting all of this, but there is an
Okay.
exception under 19847 subsection E, that there's an exception for juveniles that engage in employment activity or is going to and returning from their place of business.
Yeah, I did know that. I did express that, but it didn't seem to stop the concern. So just so you know.
Thank you, Carol. Walter? Come ahead. State your name and then relationship to the city, address,
My
or
name's Collins
whatever.
Roth. I live at 501 Boardwalk. I think this is a terrible idea. I'm very surprised to be hearing, while I appreciate the work the police do, to give discretion, a rule that will be used just on a discretionary basis. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means in terms of the ability to stop my children when they're out walking around, whether they're coming back from their jobs. They're not scary to be stopped by police, and I don't want to see that happen on a discretionary basis. How do you know someone may commit a crime? I think the tools in the arsenal are there. If there's behavior, enforce the law as it is. But I think this is a very bad idea and would not like to see it having. I also think it's a little bit misleading to say there's been 110 increase in charges. I went through some of these numbers. The charges as a percentage of total crime seems to be somewhere in the 2.5 to 4.5% range every year. It was actually down in 2023. August of last year seemed to be a tough month, but 1 month does not a trend make. And so, a rise of what's been on average about 90 juvenile charges was 180 last year, but 80 of those came in August. So I'd like to see sort of a full delving into the data, how many of these charges would be, could actually have been addressed, with this curfew. I know what sparked this discussion recently was an event that wouldn't have been addressed by this curfew. So again, I think this is a bad idea, and I'd like to really be thoughtful, ask the commissioners to be thoughtful about giving discretionary powers to the police that will be used on a basis that's not clear. And the police are very well-intentioned, and I'm very supportive of them. But down the road, I wouldn't want to see discretionary rules applied to my children and my children's friends. Thank you.
Thank you. Walter?
Thank you. Walter Brittingham, 123 Hennepin Avenue. In the past, for other items that have been printed and passed before here, and I suggest to you the next to the last page of the printed download that you can get in the area of line 214, and I'll tell you basically what it says, that if you pass this, it's effective immediately. And there's a lot of other laws that you pass that way. But folks, I don't trust the police department. And we don't post other things like don't go down Baltimore Avenue because there's no access to the boardwalk and the beach right now. you let people ride down there and then they have to come back up. It's called finger streets. I learned that as a commissioner. But if you're going to do this, and I think there's a move to do it, and I have mixed emotions about it, but I think it needs to be a tool for them. But I don't think it should be in effect immediately. I think it should be well posted. I'm sure the television networks will pick it up. But there needs to be signs very conspicuous at all the entrances to the city that curfew in effect, information available at such and such. And so that the parents will also know what happens. And I'll give you an example. When you come across Silver Lake Bridge, there is no right turn as you come out Lake Drive, and that doesn't stop people from going down the street the wrong way on their bicycles. They just don't give a damn. So it needs to be visually and audibly posted so that the public knows that there is a curfew. Thank you.
Thank you, Walter. Patty?
Patty for One State Road, Rehoboth Beach. I have a question for Mr. Banks.
Yes.
You're just doing this for minors, right?
Correct.
What about the two incidences you had up on the boardwalk? What was the age group with that?
Correct, as it was mentioned earlier, that when affect these, they were college kids, so they were
Age group?
over age of 18, so
18 and up?
18 and up, yes.
So that's where the problems are beginning with the alcohol, with their drugs, because the kids want to get out and party, okay? But if you're going to do this to the younger minors, you need to put something in curfew for the restaurants to have the alcohol. Because, you know, I had a couple come down my yard the other day. The cat jumped out of the window. The girl was drunk. The guy was drunk. She must have fallen over my little root by my tree there. And all I got, I stood on the thing and I watched them. They went up Grove Street. She fell into the street. Someone in the truck came to see if they could help them. They didn't want any help. So you've got your alcohol places around. You need to put a curfew on that. Maybe 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock.
Thank you, Patty. Anybody else? Carolyn, come ahead.
Carolyn Diefendorfer, city resident. I have mixed emotions about this also, but I think what this does is, if it is put in place, and I don't necessarily disagree that it shouldn't be, is rule followers will go home. People that are going to break the law or bend the rules are going to do it anyway, and it does give them an option of how to handle it. I do like that they're not going to go around looking. I would hope that one of the first questions, because we have young people working that might be traveling home at that point, I would hope that the first question would be is, where are you coming from and where are you going to? You know, obviously, if somebody's just got off work and they're heading to their car or they're walking to their house, that's acceptable. So I think as long as that's done, I'm sort of okay with it. I would like to think that parents know where their kids are, but we know that they don't always know. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Anybody else? Did you want to add an addendum? Sure.
I should have said this. I did look to see, we're the only place without the curfew.
Say that again?
From Ocean City. Ocean City's is 11 to 5, 11 at night till 5 a.m. Dewey is 11 to 5. Bethany is 11 to 5. Fenwick is midnight to 8. Oh, I'm sorry, till 6. And Lewis at the Roosevelt Inlet to the ferry, that is another till midnight till 6 a.m. So we wouldn't be the only ones with the midnight if we did that. And we just hope you can consider that. Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. Back up to the table here. We have any extra questions for Chief Banks?
Mayor?
Commissioner Good?
Yeah, Chief, because I'm reluctant about this but on the other hand, I have confidence that you will only be, interacting with youths who are clearly, inebriated, violent, whatever. Would you be amenable, because I think 12 midnight to 5 a.m. is simply cleaner, And because when the daylight goes till 9 PM, like especially June 21st, that, I mean, my husband and I had 4 teenage boys. I mean, to them, 11 PM, sort of, they sometimes don't get organized with their friends till 9:30 or 10 at night. So I'm feeling as though I'd like to take a page from Bethany Beach's book. I did look up that we are one of the jurisdictions which don't have that. So for that reason, it might be reasonable, even though I'm a little reluctant, to have something, but to limit it. How would you feel about changing it to 12 midnight to 5 AM?
If you're asking me, I'm going to stick with at 11 because it does make it consistent with the towns. With Bethany has a boardwalk. The South Bethany is the one that has the midnight. Ocean City, no, I was 11 o'clock. And Lewis is a little bit different because their mayor puts it in effect when they need to, except for like the Roosevelt, and that's a fishing pier area. And so it's a little bit different than what we're dealing with down here. As far as the 11 o'clock, if all the towns that have that had, if you reach out to them, I'm sure you did your due diligence. They're not seeing complaints from the businesses or the residents complaining that their child or somebody's been stopped because, coming from work or other issues and all that. It just hasn't been that way in all these towns. It's just another tool. I get there's always that hesitation, but it's probably that way with every new law. And yes, there'll be an education part to that aspect, as it was mentioned. It always is. It takes some time. I mean, these laws say it goes in effect immediately. Well, the first thing we have to sit there and do is we'll notify the state or whatever, so get into the system and all that. So government has an issue of kind of going slow anyway to get this in. So it could be a week or 2 weeks before it gets going. I don't want to say for sure because I call Monday and, our alderman court gets it, the state courts get it in their system if they have somebody that can get it quickly. So, but it does take a few days for everything to sync up.
Mayor?
Commissioner Saunders?
I just, I agree with you. It's going to take a few days. I want to ask Mr. Tetters, I also agree with Mr. Brittingham that we probably should have it shouldn't be started immediately if we're not able to put signs up and notify people immediately. And I'm wondering how quickly we could get the signs up and get the public notified, in your opinion.
We could have signs up next week.
That quick?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Like to entertain a motion, I guess is the next step. Do you or have any additional
I
comment?
just had a comment. I mean, just to give some background, this conversation really began with me and the chief after I did a couple of ride-alongs in the midnight shift with officers. And we would see young kids, minors, juveniles, however you want to describe them, traveling in packs around a town and, shaking doors, just being kids at some times. But it's midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. And so I would say to the officer, why don't we stop this? Why don't you take action? And he says, well, they'll speak through the loudspeaker and break them up a little bit at times, but they'll come back. But he says, we really don't have any tools to do anything other than this. I said, well, there's laws on the books. He said, yeah, but they're all criminal. And I don't want to be responsible to be giving a 14-year-old or a 15-year-old a criminal record. So Chief and I had several discussions about this back and forth. And, at times we do work at glacier speed here. But this has been vetted, this has been discussed, this has been talked about with the businesses. When an officer comes to you and says, we need to do something and we need to make this change or we need to enact this ordinance, you should be listening because things are changing out there. And I still remember this. One of my first meetings here as an elected official back in 2004, the chief said at that time, as he was giving his report, this is not your grandfather's Rehoboth. And it has changed dramatically in those 20 years, and not necessarily for the better. So again, I strongly support this. I began these discussions last year. I think it's unfortunate that we have to do these types of things in the society that we're in today, but we need to do this, and I think that from the aspect of it is a civil citation, it is handled within our own alderman's court, and it gives the individual officers and our cadets also the opportunity to have some enforcement tools in their ability to use these. So just to give a little background of where I came from on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. I'm glad to see that you refer to it as a tool. It's not proactive, not heavy-handed. I do give it a little weight that the police have asked for it, and we've made note that other beach towns have it, and because other beach towns have it, I would not want to go to the midnight or start at midnight, I think, because I think that's would be troublesome. But Carol, I'm appreciative of your Chamber of Commerce poll and comments. Did you have?
Yeah, I just want to say a couple things on this. To be honest, I'm rather conflicted, probably more so coming into it than I am now. Anytime that there's selective enforcement, I worry about discrimination and or the perception of discrimination and just whatever can come with that. But I also am understanding the limitations that the police have had in the past on really criminal charges being the only thing. So that weighs pretty heavy on my mind at the moment, as it being a tool to deal with instances that are being disruptive and not just going out there looking for anyone that's looking for a problem that doesn't exist. The business community has definitely weighed in on this extensively, and I do think that they're generally supportive of it and have been for many years, as they've seen increase in shoplifting and employees and managers being scared, et cetera. So that weighs a lot on me at the moment as well. But surprisingly, we've only gotten not a huge amount of citizen response and communication, and I think most of it has been against the curfew, which surprises me a little bit. Anyway, those were just some thoughts. I'm still kind of on the fence, but just want to share my thoughts and perspective on it.
Mayor, may I follow up on what you said?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm wondering if any of my colleagues up here, I know citing other beach towns start at 11, but to me, with the exception of Ocean City, Maryland, which isn't really in the same driving range for teenagers who don't have a lot of gas money and everything else, to me, we can drive the decisions on our own initiative. We don't need to follow other towns. We're a larger draw. If you're a teenager, you want to go to the ocean. You don't want to go to the town of Lewis or a sleepy little, enclave of Bethany Beach. So is there anyone else who feels that midnight, first of all, it's cleaner when you put it on signs. 11 p.m., like we have so much confusion, which should be addressed, like we have May 1st for the dogs, but May 15th for the dogs. For the parking, which already is problematic. Like, to me, it's so much cleaner to have it start at 12 midnight. It's easier for people for high school kids to remember, assuming they remember much of rules. But I feel as though worrying that the other communities have decided 11 o'clock, we should be independent and do what is most sensible, not just because Bethany Beach or South Bethany or Dewey chose 11 o'clock. I don't actually, need to adhere to their judgment.
Well, my point is that if we're midnight, it has the potential for the youngsters to come from Dewey or even Bethany up to visit us. And that's my point. Do I have an motion?
Yes, Mayor, if I would like to make a motion to amend Chapter 198, Peace and Good Order of the Municipal Code of the City of Rehoboth Beach, Delaware 2001, by inserting a new Article 10 curfew for minors. And adopt the ordinance as written.
Second it.
We have a motion by Commissioner Patrick Gossett and a second by Commissioner Mark Saunders to adopt an ordinance before us to amend Chapter 198, Peace and Good Order, by inserting a new Article 10, curfew for minors, before us. Is there any additional discussion? If not, I'll rotate the vote. Commissioner Markert?
I'm going to vote yes, but I would like to appeal to the chief and to the police staff to be judicious in using this. I'd like to think of it somewhat like a speed limit, where if it's 11 o'clock or whatever time that it goes into effect, that there's some lenience that can be made and some, but basically to use with some discretion, but to be fair about it, okay? So I vote yes.
Commissioner Thier?
Yeah, I as well vote yes. I also, as many, have mixed feelings, but I am going to take the recommendation of the chief of police at this point, and I do vote yes.
Commissioner Saunders?
I have no mixed feelings. I vote yes.
Commissioner Good?
I'm voting nay because I would have hoped that I would have had support for, I felt the curfew from 12 midnight to 5 a.m. Would have made sense, but summer nights are known for being, warm and appealing. So I vote nay, but I totally support and trust the police that I have a feeling this will be adopted, that they're looking for kids who are causing property damage, who are using illegal drugs, and this is not going to affect kids who are just having fun in the summer with their friends.
Thank you, Suzanne. Commissioner Stronowski?
I share many of the thoughts that everyone just said, and I believe that the intentions of the police and its enforcement is good. But anytime you have a law or an ordinance on the books, it can always be it can always be enforced differently by different people. And while I think the intention is good, for those reasons I vote nay.
Commissioner Gossett?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. The motion carries 5-2. Thank you much for all your input. Thank you, Chief. Commissioner announcements and comments. I'd like to start off. I taught 3 sessions of 5th graders this week in this room, government sessions. I think it's my 5th year I've done that. They're very attentive, and the most exciting part for them is at the very end, I let them sit in the mayor's seat for a little bit. So I do that each year. Pride Month, as you know, in the past year since I've been mayor, I've had a proclamation recognizing June as Pride Month. This year, the activities will be similar to last year, except on June 1st, which is a Sunday, we'll actually gather out at the Convention Hall flagpoles and read a proclamation there. We'll have all the commissioners that are available there, as well as some other guests to help raise the pride flag. And also this year, we're going to have the reading of a little story about the colors and how of the pride flag. Excuse me. That starts on Sunday, June 1st at noon. And after that activity at the flagpole, then everybody's invited over to Aqua with a photo shoot at the brand new painted rainbow crosswalks. They look very nice, Taylor. So everybody's invited. We'll get the word out shortly. Lastly, I did an interview on 99.1 Radio Rehoboth Beach. Does anybody else have any comments or announcements? Commissioner Marker?
Yeah. I had a comment, personal in nature, if you'll indulge me. I've always felt that if you say somebody's name, if you remember somebody, I'm getting it wrong. You'll never forget somebody if you keep repeating their name. And today is a special day for me because it's the I need to compose myself. The 100th my father's 100th birthday. And he and I have the same name, and he imbued values to me that I hold dear. And I just wanted to mention it in a public space today. So thank you.
Thank you, Bunky.
Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I would actually, and I'm touched by what Commissioner Markert has just told us, and I will say that when my mother passed away recently, I could see the heartfelt sentiments he had held. I guess he was obviously very close to his father, so it's an unusual topic up here on
I know,
the dais,
but it's the only chance I'm going to get to do it. So
May
thank you.
16th.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item of business is review future meeting dates. Our next meeting is a workshop meeting on Monday, June 9th. And with that, our next bit of business takes us into executive session for the purpose of strategy session involving legal advice or opinion from an attorney at law with respect to pending or potential litigation as permitted by the Freedom of Information Act, 29 Del C, Section 10,004B4, and discussion of the content of documents excluded from the definition of public record in 29 Del C, Section 10,002, as permitted by 29 Del C, Section 10,004B6. With that, do we have a motion to go into executive session for the purposes stated? Ed?
Moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Ed Chernowski and a second by Commissioner Patrick Gossett to enter into executive session for the purpose of strategy session involving legal advice or opinion from attorney at law, et cetera, as noted on the agenda. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed. And so we will be going into executive session. Before we leave, I do want to say that the duration of the executive session, where we are going into a private room over here, the duration is unknown. No votes and no actions will be taken in executive session. We would come back into public session to adjourn or to take any votes in public session here. We do have, if you note on the agenda, when we come back into public session, the potential to vote on matters discussed in executive session. Again, we don't know the duration of that. You're welcome to stay here and sit and read and do whatever. We'd also be glad to text you or call you if you like 10 minutes notice to come back, if any, but you need to see us right away. Nobody? All righty, thank you. We're going to recess into the caucus room.
Yeah.
And you let me know. Are you ready? I'll entertain a motion, please, to come out of executive session back into public session.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Ed Chernowski and a second by Commissioner Patrick Gossett to come out of public session back into, come out of executive session back into public session. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And we are now back in public session. Our next bit of business is potential vote on matters discussed in executive session. Do I have a motion?
Mayor, I move that we accept the recommendations that were discussed in executive session.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Chernowski and a second by Commissioner Patrick Gossett to proceed with recommendations discussed in executive session. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, and the motion is carried unanimously. Did you write something?
Just the motion.
Oh, okay. And with that, we come to citizen comment. I'll make note that there's no members of the public in the audience. And with that, there being no further business, I adjourn this meeting at 5:50 p.m. Thank you very much. There you go.